Hey guys, and welcome back to the Outer Rim. I'm Gabe Green, and today, with the help of one of my Outer Rim admins, we'll be talking about the latest episode of The Bad Batch. And today, I am again joined by Drew. Welcome, man.
What up?
Not much, just a really awesome episode of The Bad Batch to talk about. So this week it is episode 15. But also, if you'd rather listen to the audio of this review and not just stare at us or stare at me because Drew's hiding, you can find the audio version of this review on my podcast, Franchise Fatigue. It's all on that feed. There'll be a link to that in the description here. So this episode is episode 15, Return to Kamino. It's written by Matt Mishnovets, and this is a name you should be keeping an eye on. He's been the story editor for this entire season, but going back to the Clone Wars, he wrote the original Bad Batch arc. He's also written some of the best episodes of this show, with Replacements, Bounty Lost, and War Mantle. Interesting thing I noticed when I was doing research for this episode is that Replacements, War Mantle, and now Return to Kamino, essentially, they tell the story of Project War Mantle, which is the effort to replace clones with volunteers. So, like, normally in the Clone Wars, he just been given like a 4-episode arc, in one block. But here, he's kind of had to seed it out in various episodes throughout the entire season. But yeah, all the ones that are strictly dealing with War Mantle are all from him, which is interesting. He's also wrote some other really cool clone-centric stories like the Umbar arc, which is just amazing on its own, and also Rex's return in Rebels with the Lost Commanders. So it does feel very fitting that he is the one who gets to bring the era of the Clone Wars to a close with this episode. And it was directed by Nathaniel Villanueva. So the synopsis is, as the Empire finalizes its departure from Kamino, Crosshair uses Hunter to lure the rest of the Bad Batch into a trap, and they oblige and the trap is sprung. Crosshair reveals that his inhibitor chip has been removed for some time, and he pleads with his former brothers to come back and serve the Empire with him. And they refuse. Meanwhile, the Empire begins bombarding Tapoka City, leaving the entire Bad Batch trapped as it sinks into the ocean. All right, dude. What'd you think?
Again, another really awesome episode.
I was not ready.
They've just been going out with a bang, honestly, and I cannot wait to see like how it all turns out in the finale. But yeah, like it was great to see Kamino again. Obviously, like Kamino is just like such an interesting planet.
Again and then never again.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I don't know what I was expecting, but like this entire episode was surprising me every step of the way. Just number one, bringing them back to Kamino, and then just how it kept wrapping up. And the big thing that stood out to me in this episode is just the tone. It has this really portentous, melancholy sense of doom over the whole thing. As with just the music, it's very patient cinematography, kind of grim lighting. I feel like Kamino is always storming, but it felt like it was storming even more than usual this time.
Yeah.
And just the sense of emptiness and the sense of just things coming to an end that is throughout this entire episode. Just little effects, like the way the halls of Kamino kind of fade out into white after like 50 or 100 feet in either direction. It gives it this kind of limbo sense of emptiness. Like that's an effect that a lot of shows or movies will use for depicting like heaven or the afterlife. Just it feels like you're kind of in this ethereal in between state. And just the whole episode has this kind of balanced on that.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I saw like a lot of people post images of like scenes from like the beginning of the series when I think it was actually from the pilot episode.
Well, my background is, I think, one of those. Or
yeah, like there was like the cafeteria, for example. I think there's like a shot of the cafeteria at the beginning of the season, and there's a shot in this most recent episode that's like nearly the same frame, but it's empty this time around. And it's like I don't know, it's such like a neat way to like kind of call back to the beginning of the show where like the clones still felt lively and they were still there, and like now they're just completely gone.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and there's a lot of Crosshair stuff to talk about. We'll get to that. But I did like this the Omega stuff that's happening where they're using her knowledge to sneak back into the city. And we see the Nalise's personal research laboratory, and we learn a bit more about Omega and the Bad Batch's origin, how they all came from the same lab. And this blew my mind. But Omega is older than the Bad Batch. How? How does that work? I don't even...
I think that's implying that she is like, I mean, they already said that like she's basically.
I understand that their growth is accelerated, but it's just breaking my brain.
Yeah.
Trying, like,
it is so weird.
Like they are they given life experience with that? Like, because all the Bad Batch, you know, not just the Bad Batch, the clones, you know, they all function like adults. It's like it's just so weird because like she goes to them. She looks at them like adults, even though she's older than them. It's just so crazy. But I love the fact that like she was there when they were, I guess, quote unquote, born, and like they came from the same laboratory. So like I guess in cloning terms, that kind of, you know, makes them, you know, siblings almost, and it really it says a lot about, you know, the instant connection she had with them, you know, in the pilot. And it's just it's so interesting. It's just that whole scene. It's hard to describe because so much is just in the atmosphere of just kind of existing and feeling in these empty spaces as it's all about to end. Yeah. I love how resentful Tech is that none of these places are on the maps and blueprints. He's like, he takes it as a personal affront. Then your record's like, whoa, is that true? How can I possibly know that? Like, his precious information is failing him. But moving into the big thing this episode, we have Crosshair luring them into a trap and revealing that he's not out to kill them. He wants, you know, he wants his friends back. He wants his brothers back. He wants them to join him and to enjoy, you know, together we can rule the galaxy. You know, it's a classic Star Wars thing. And I think all of this is so well written, particularly his speeches, where there's several lines earlier. This is back to the beginning where Hunter says, you know, using my comm won't work. They'll know it's a trap. He says, they'll come for you. And you sense that little bit of bitterness, like, yeah, they'll come for you. You didn't come for me, but they'll come for you. Yeah. You know, they don't leave their own behind most of the time. And we get to, we're feeling a level of pity for him that we haven't up till now, because like he was always the jerk of the group, and I guess one of the perils of being an asshole in life is that there's not going to be as many people willing to risk life and limb to save you. But yeah, like he's very much resentful of the fact that they didn't come back for him, and like they don't have a lot of excuses for that, because like when Omega was captured, they came back for her. When Hunter's captured, they're coming for him. They went to rescue Gregor from they didn't even know him, and they went to rescue him from an Imperial base, but they kind of just left him behind. And they did that knowing that it wasn't his choice. You know, where Hunter says, you know, you tried to kill us, we didn't have a choice, and he's like, and I did. And so I think he had his chip removed after he was burned, because they've had that very prominent burn scar over his head, like right over the place where the inhibitor chip is. Yeah. It's just like the questions of choice, and you know, this is who I am. You know, stop pretending to be something you're not. This is what you were made for. You were all meant for something more than just drifting through the galaxy. Join the Empire, and you will have purpose again. Where he's someone who seems to entirely define himself by fitting into this authority structure and being given a purpose, you know, by, in this case, the galactic government. And just Hunter's simple line, "You really don't get who we are, do you?" Just they've diverged so far in what they see as their purpose now. I've been rambling. What do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with you. Like, the writing for Crosshair was really great this episode, and I loved how we kind of like really saw his perspective and how like he feels really like left behind by his brothers, and it was just like really awesome to like see that. And then also she was like right there.
Yeah. And it's really I appreciate how subtle his writing is, where it's never full on evil. There's always a balance of truth in with his warped perspective. Like everything he says is sounding really good, but then there's like a little line, like, we're not like the Rex, we're superior. And just like there's like it's a really good balance of genuine, heartfelt desire for this family to be reunited, also with the menace of he's kind of an imperial thug now, and he likes it. Like it's a lot more subtle in the dialogue than I'm used to seeing in this show. And I really hope that they can keep this level of character depth going forward. That whole scene is just heartbreaking. But then when the droids come in, the practice droids come in, and we get the Bad Batches all together again, battling droids in the training arena, and you have the Bad Batch main theme just blaring. It just puts a smile on your face. Like, it can't last. It's not real, but
yeah,
it is harkening back to that for the pilot episode when Tarkin was testing them, with these droids, set to kill in the same arena. Kind of, it's like poetry. It rhymes.
Exactly. Yeah, that's what I've loved about this show is like I said earlier, with like the shots of Kamino being very similar to the shots of Kamino at the beginning of the season. There's so much like stuff like that in this show where like it's just like the Star Wars films where like there are so many scenes that call back to like previous works in Star Wars. Just like the classic George Lucas flow. So like it's just like, I don't know, I love that about Star Wars. I love just like seeing something that I've seen before but like done in a different way, or like telling something in a different way. It's just, I don't know, something about it is awesome.
Yeah. And it's funny because I've mentioned several times in these reviews how I hoped that the finale would be the Bad Batch coming back to Kamino and burning it down. And that sort of happened, not in the way I was expecting. They came back to Kamino, but it was the Empire doing the burning. It's just the way the Empire is like slowly clearing out, evacuating the base, and then the final moment where we get Tarkin's line, "You may fire when ready," and I can never get enough shots of Star Destroyers coming through clouds and lightning. It's happened several times. The most notable one I'm thinking of is in Solo, but it's art.
Yeah.
And it's sad because it's the Venator Star Destroyers, the Republic cruisers, manned by clones. Like the clone officer talking to Rampart is like and they're destroying their own home. There's something just so tragic and gross about it all.
Yeah.
And the effects of the bombardment.
It looks so good.
The way the lasers just like you could just see it ripping through. It's not they're not just doing like a fiery explosion to cover it up, but they're actually showing it going through the metal and ripping it apart. Or the shot of it underwater hitting the pillars, like they put some work into that.
Yeah, they really did. Like seeing how far we've come from when Clone Wars first came out to now this, like the animation style is just so great, and I absolutely loved how detailed they got it with it in this episode. It looked amazing.
Yeah, and so it ends with they're trapped, the thing is sinking, they got Crosshair, but they're not friends really anymore. So this episode pretty much covered everything I expected both episodes to do together. Like, so I'm really curious. Like, obviously they have to escape the sinking city, but like, what kind of drama and somehow deal with Crosshair? Like, that the Crosshair stuff almost felt resolved.
Yeah.
So I'm very curious about what they've got for us next episode beyond simply surviving and escaping.
Yeah, I
and
definitely think that I have a strong feeling that they're gonna meet with Rex again.
Yeah.
Because they did mention, like when Hunter wanted Omega to go back to the ship with the droid, which also is great seeing that droid again.
Yeah. Oh, it looks. I'm guessing he'll be hopefully he's a recurring character in season 2.
Yeah, that would be
they'll probably
great.
take him with them.
Yeah, that's so funny. But yeah, like no, yeah, Hunter was like, like go back to the ship and contact Rex. And so like I don't know, to me, like I feel like that's just kind of giving a subtle hint that they're gonna try and meet with him by the end of the episode. And I almost wonder if like the purpose of the Bad Batch is to like obviously like they're gonna probably like become rebels and everything, but like I'm wondering if like what they're doing with them and like Rex and everything, like maybe they're trying to rescue like all of the clones that are captured by the Empire.
That would be very thematically in line with Crosshair's rebukes coming back for their brothers. But then again, it seems the inhibitor chips are wearing off, so a lot of these clones are just going with the flow, like Admiral Yularen did and a lot of other people. So that's going to be some interesting questions. I wonder if they'll send the call out to Rex and someone's going to come to rescue, like someone significant in the rebellion, like Bail Organa's going to, like the ship's going to land, the door's going to open, he'll be there or something. Or even Ahsoka. I guess no, not Ahsoka. I think she's inactive at this moment.
Probably.
But yeah, but maybe like someone, like they think it's Rex coming to rescue them, but it's going to be someone who's some early rebellion figure who's going to kind of initiate them in, or just Rex. That would work too. Or what if
it'll be Luke Skywalker, even though he's not born, or he is born yet, but he's not not an adult yet. But like they'll probably like do something like that, like the Mando, where it's like a cameo that you weren't expecting.
Yeah. All right. Anything else in particular you want to mention?
I think we kind of like covered majority of it.
Pretty much. Yeah. So just gorgeous episode, beautifully directed, great drama. I like it.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So that's all for this week. Join us in the Outer Rim, a Star Wars group on Facebook, for more Star Wars discussion. We have posts for each and every episode. It's dedicated to positive and constructive Star Wars discussion. Also, please like this video and subscribe to the channel for the rest of the reviews. And check out my podcast, as I said, Franchise Fatigue. I talk about film series, and also you can listen to the audio versions of these reviews. And we will be back next week for the finale. See you then.